basics. So what's your name, please?
My name is Asa Wilson.
And what is your role in the Catapult world?
I am a committee member of the ESF, the England Slingshot Federation, and then I also make custom catapults under the brand name Romany Custom Catapults.
How long have you been doing the catapults for, the making?
The making side of it, I'd say probably 6 years, but under RCC around about 4 years. I think maybe 5 years coming up, August, October time.
What was the first catapult you made? What type?
First catapult I made would be a wooden catapult, something I cut down from an oversized fork and then just whittled away and shaped around. I found it quite therapeutic, to be honest, to just sit there on an afternoon and carve away. So yeah, originally wood ones. You get inspired by other people. You see other people doing stuff before my time, and then you just want to put your touch on it, and you get your own style. I thought personally it's been a good to do the naturals that I've done. I'm not saying I've done loads, and I didn't really sell them. It was mainly just to give to people, but it was a good footing for what I do now, basically.
So did you grow up with kind of whittling and stuff and doing things like that? Or was it just something you went, do you know what, I'm just going to try this, I've seen people do it?
Originally, I shot a catapult, a Black Widow, like most people do, at the age of maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. And then as you get older, I kind of just dropped it out a little bit. You lose interest, and then I got re-added to a Facebook group by a friend of mine, and then it kind of opened my eyes to see the different styles and whatnot, and it got me back involved. You know what I mean? You find yourself getting back involved. But with the whittling side of it, it's something I've always been into. I'm always a bit of I'm quite decent with my hands. I like drawing and painting, and I'm just a bit of a craftsman, to be fair. I'm artsy, if you get that right. Yeah, I'm the other one as well, like at times, but I think most creative people are a little bit artsy as well. So.
Yeah. There's definitely a different side to people, for sure. So did you are you one of those kind of cross people that likes experimenting with using different oils to see the different effects, or did you like just the actual shape of it or designing on it?
When I originally started with wooden catapults, I was massively involved with what I found involving is the shaping and fitting something to your hand, that custom type of fit. I found that really, and not just obviously if you're using something like a catapult, it needs to feel nice in your hand, but I also like to try and mix in beauty with it as well. I'm a big fan of beauty. It's got to look nice, you know what I mean? I wouldn't just have something just usable. I like things that look nice and are elegant looking and stuff like that. Something
functional but also beautiful.
And I was obsessed with sanding as well. Like it's seen me in good stead now later on, but I used to be able to get wood literally as smooth as I possibly could. I just found it fascinating to do that and mix around with oils and wax and beeswax I bought in and stuff like that. I just found it, like I say, it's a very good basis for what I do now. And if I'm honest, I still probably enjoy making wood catapults more than some of the custom stuff I do now, you know what I mean? It just feels a little bit more well, they're natural. It just feels like I feel it's more craft work. It's a little bit more arty than doing what I'm doing now than laminating it. So it's much more satisfying to shape a piece of wood from scratch than it is to glue pieces together.
I suppose the nature of the medium itself, with the knots and the fork and everything that you've got to work with nature.
Exactly,
apart from going, well, you can make anything you want out of this material. It's like, well, I can make what I want, but I've got to work around it. And it's
without
a challenge.
a doubt. It's something I generally would. I sit there sometimes and I think, I'd love to do a natural. I just get that feeling where I just want to sit outside and just sand away. I don't have to worry about so much dimensions and measurements. I just want it to look nice and feel good. That's the main thing. But loads of times I look at stuff and I'd like to go back to that, but unfortunately it's
everyone's going the other way.
Everyone's going the other. It's getting more and more scientific. Without a doubt.
When it came to moving away from naturals, what was the first catapult that you made that was your catapult? Because I know obviously the Raptor's an incredibly famous catapult now, but what was your first catapult?
I obviously made naturals that suited myself, and then I actually had a friend, and I got speaking to that friend again, and her dad is a bit of a celebrity in the Romany world for making catapults, Sam Stanley, and I was speaking to his daughter, and she kind of mentioned me to her dad, and her dad didn't want to do it anymore, so he rang me up. He said, I've got a load of stuff here, Ace. So he said, if you want to come down and take it away, you can take it away. I had no intentions whatsoever in doing metal catapults. I had no intentions of actually doing catapults to sell. Nothing like that. It never once crossed my mind. And I went down there, and the man was extremely generous. I went away with a bootload of buffalo horn and camel bone and antler, but I've still got boxes and boxes of antler in the shed now. and he gave me, I think it was 51 or 2 of what I named Stanley blanks. He never, what you know as a Stanley frame now is because I called it a Stanley frame because Sam Stanley gave me them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he would never put a name to anything. To him it was just a slingshot or a sling or a catapult, and he wouldn't bother. He actually looked at the design, he was like, you know them Milbros, this is better. It was kind of based a little bit on a Milbro and whatnot. And yeah, I just took it away from there. And I was quite nervous about it, to be honest with you. I thought to myself, am I going to be able to scale metal stuff? Am I going to be able to work this stuff? I didn't know how it was going to go. And I had to buy machines in to do it. So look, that's how unplanned it was. I bought in machines to do it. And I think it was August. I can't remember the year, but it was 2014, I believe. So I might have been doing it a little bit longer than I thought. Yeah, and I started doing one. I took a lot of time. And like I say, I'm naturally good, and I've got a bit of an eye for keeping stuff level. I'm a bit of a neat freak as well, so I'm always trying to be as, even if it's off sometimes, I've tried, I'm always putting a lot of effort into doing that. And yeah, I started building them, and it just kind of went from there. All 50 odd of them Sam Stanley blanks went, and that's what I shot a Sam Stanley frame. I've still got one now.
What did he think about it? Did he know you called it the Stanley frame?
I don't know whether he knew that, but I remember I went back again, he rung me up and I went back to pick some more stuff off him. And he was like, if you want, tell them I've taught you and whatever you want. And he looked at my stuff, and Sam actually said to me, he said, it's a good job I don't sell catapults anymore. He said, because if me and you was at a fair side by side, he said, I wouldn't sell one.
Oh, really?
And that is actually a truthful quote he said to me, yes, which made me feel quite good.
I was going to say, how did that make you feel? That must have been...
stepped it up a fair bit, and I went on further and further from there. So yeah, but they were traditional style frames where they're just aluminium cores with bone handles on them and whatnot. And
have you worked much with bone then?
Yeah, that's all I ever used to work with.
Because we've just seen there's a lot of people in Vietnam who are really into slingshot at the moment, and some of the stuff we've seen them making with buffalo horn. Yeah, it was amazing.
No, I've still got some buffalo horn, but it's back home. I've made catapults out of solid pieces of buffalo horn. I actually made a Stanley frame from a buffalo horn. I planed it down. I've got it actually back home. It's back home. I actually found it, and camel bone, all stuff like that. That was all I ever really worked with.
Yeah.
And then I found different stuff that Sam never. Because he wasn't online, I was online.
Yeah.
I could find stuff, and I found pressure dyed bone and stuff like that. And you have bone with colour in it. So.
Well, the colours that you can get off bone is amazing. Like the striations and the movement within the actual medium itself looks stunning, don't they?
You just find yourself, like, naturally as I was doing it, it's a creative side, I suppose. Instead of just doing a white or black handle, which is obviously what it was going to be with buffalo horn or camel bone, I'd start putting white at the top and splitting the bottom of the handle off and putting a little bit on the bottom of colour, and a little bit of colour was nice. It's just, you find your own style, you know what I mean? I felt at the time I found my own style because no one was scaling frames at that same way.
Yeah.
What now is quite a normal thing, and angled splits rather than just do a straight split. I'd do it at an angle. It's visually a little bit more appealing. Well, I think so anyway. And well, they all sold, so
they did work. So
yeah.
This artistic, creative side of yours, when did you first find this? Was it through catapults, or have you always had this?
No, yeah, I've always had it. Yeah, it's not really been through catapults, but I've got a granddad that lives next door to me that is a massive whittler as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I remember him making me wooden knives ages ago. He'd get a piece of wood and just carve like a wooden knife out of it, like a sculpture thing. So I think it kind of comes from that side of the family where if he's got a paintbrush and a tin of paint, he'll paint something, or if he's got a hammer and a nail or a saw, he'll do something like that. And I think that's where I get it from. Yeah. It definitely ain't from my father's side, because they'd rather get someone else to do it. But no, my granddad's side, do it.
But sometimes it passes through generations like that, you know.
But anything with engines and stuff like that, I've got a fascination for taking things apart and putting them back together and stuff like that. I see it as a challenge. If I break my phone, I'll go on YouTube and I'll look at a video and I want to try and fix it myself. I see it as a challenge.
So it's like a natural curiosity you've got, really.
Yeah, curiosity and building kind of fell straight into that, building catapults. It fell nicely into it. It was something I was looking for, I think. You know what I mean? It's nice to have that what is it? It's an outlet, would it be the right word?
Outlet,
I don't know.
Outlet.
An outlet for stuff inside, and you can be creative. Whatever you do, you can be creative. For me, it's some people they'll look at it as a catapult. It's not even about it being a catapult for me. It's just something I've created. You know what I mean? It could be anything.
Do you find it hard to let it go after, or did you find that was quite easy? As in, I've worked with artists for years, and sometimes, you know, they work on a piece and they don't want to let it go, but others can work on a piece and say, well, actually, they've given birth to it in a way, and then it can go. It doesn't really matter. You know, they're happy that someone else has got it.
Yeah, It doesn't bother me so much now. Every now and again I'll build something and I'll look at it and I'll go, I really, really like that, and I do find it hard to let go.
Are they the perfect ones that you were on about earlier?
Yeah.
Or is it just the actual, there's just a feeling?
They obviously, them ones being what I would call perfect, that obviously does help. But I've had basic builds that I've felt have been perfect, and they're few and far between perfect builds, but I've had really basic ones, which then I appreciate because I find it flawless.
Yeah.
But no, it's just certain builds. I've got maybe a top 3 or 4 catapults that I just look at and think, yeah, I really, really like them. And
so you got an instinct for when something feels right.
I'm not so much of a collector with catapults. Loads of people say to me, like, you must have a massive collection and whatnot, and I generally don't. I've got a drawer with a fair few different catapults in, but a lot of them's just cheaper stuff for other people to use. I haven't really.
Yeah.
I've got 2 catapults in the cupboard. One I built myself, which was a Stanley frame scaled with ivory. Ivory is extremely difficult to get hold of, and it's got also sentimental value to it. So I would never ever get rid of that frame. In fact, I actually want some scroll work. I've spoke to I don't know what they call them, a scroller, I suppose. A scroller, and I was trying to get him to do some scroll work on it, which would look phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then I've got another catapult I recently got off of a friend of mine who's another custom builder, and that's, I think, probably the only catapult I've ever had commissioned by anyone else.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can build stuff myself.
But isn't it amazing that there are so many people that there are people that just use catapults and they just want one. Maybe that's because they can afford just one, or perhaps they just want to dedicate to that. But then there are people who are looking at them as a piece of artwork that they can't wait to have, and it's part of a collection they're going to love and treasure, and they're taking photographs of them and posting them online. I mean,
yeah, that's like and they keep them in cupboards. Well, a lot of people that buy stuff off of me, they're kept in cupboards and they don't get used. I won't mention their names, but I've got several customers that have literally spent thousands of pounds with me on catapults. They don't even want reminding of how much they have spent.
But that's the thing,
I'm
because
not going to do it.
I'm finding because the names in the catapults, I've got to say, everyone's been really good with names. It's either their initials or they've got a special name or something. But then the artist that's done them, their name's going with it as well. Because before we met, I knew it was Asa Wilson, Raptor. They go together, and the fact that people are collecting those kind of things.
See, naming catapults is something that I've always been quite fond of as well. Every time I've named a catapult, I've thought long and hard about what I want to call it. I think the first one was the Pegasus, which I don't know why. I'm into a little bit of mythology, me as well. I like a bit of Greek mythology.
I love Greek mythology. I was going to ask you about your catapult names.
I'm a man that likes a bit of fantasy, let's say. Magicians, they laugh at me in my local pub because I love anything magic, and I like to believe that there's something else out there. So Greek gods and stuff like that, and it's mythical. I love it. So the Pegasus came in, and then it was the Shamshir, which is it's like a Persian sword. Yeah. So I actually designed the bottom of the handle in the shape of a Persian sword, how it drops down. So that was the Shamshir. Velociraptor got named by the bottom of the handle, the hook. I kind of turned it to a claw of a Velociraptor, which obviously I got from the Jurassic Park film. And then that family gets bigger. You've got like the Microraptor, which is, it's not called Microraptor because it's a small catapult. There is actually a dinosaur called a Microraptor and a Utah
We were
Raptor.
having this discussion about the Velociraptor, and I was going, is that the short one? He was like, no, the Velociraptor's this big, so it must be the Microraptor that I'm thinking that goes in the packs.
No, that's the one that you're on about. Well, there's 2 different ones in the film.
They look like a Velociraptor, but they're smaller.
Yeah, the tiny little ones. Yeah, they're the Microraptor.
They storm through. Yeah,
they're the Microraptor. So the Raptor now is actually, it's a family, because then I do different sizes of each version, and we've got like the juvenile, the adolescent, then the full size adult. So I've kind of actually named them all.
So you're the only one that technically has the egg then, because you're making it.
I've created a family of raptors, and I can't remember at the last count. I think there might be 20 different variations of it. And I've got more that I've not done. So the raptor family is the
raptor family's growing along nicely.
It's possibly, I would say, for a name of a catapult, it's got the most variations of any catapult on the planet, I would have thought. I don't think there's another catapult that has so many, with having it several sizes, and then having like the paddle fork, pickle fork, OTT, TTF. It's just it's expansive.
It is an expansive one,
there's not so many, because I know Gamekeeper John's obviously got the PPMG or the Pocket Poacher range, and there's quite a few variations with that, but I don't think there's quite as many as the Raptor.
No, I don't think so, to be honest. So when it comes to materials now, because obviously if you started off with the naturals, what was the first material that you used? Because essentially, if that's a completely new kettle of fish, as you'd say, what was the first?
Well, G10. But I remember another catapult builder, he doesn't make anything anymore, a fella called Dragonfly. and he made some really nice catapults, and he kind of set the precedent for finish on G10 builds. And I had a lot of conversations with him before I went into G10, because obviously the man was doing something that I wasn't doing at the time.
Yeah.
And I had various FaceTimes with him and whatnot, and he told me whereabouts to get it from, because it was in America, the materials, and I've never really bought anything from America or anything like that, so it was all new. And I asked him how to work it and whatnot, and he said, look, Ace, he said all you're looking for, he said, is approval. He said deep down, he said, you know full well, he said, you can work this material.
Yeah.
He said, you've already got it set in your head how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
He said, so you're just looking for approval for me to say, yeah, you do it, that's how to do it.
Yeah. And did he give you that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he gave me that approval. Yeah, and I went on, and I'm not going to say my finish is better than that, man, because you can only sand and finish a piece of metal or a material as far as it will go.
Yeah.
But and he was a fantastic finisher. I take nothing away from him, but I'd like to feel I've got on par with his finish.
Yeah.
And just getting a little bit better each time and whatnot. But yeah, it's G10 fiberglass laminate. That was the main thing.
What has been the best material that you found that you really enjoyed working with, or it was the challenge that you've overcome?
I don't know, really. It's hard to say. It's always nice. It's nice, but not nice to work with a material that's quite rare.
Yeah.
Because you know if you're damaging it, or if it's an expensive material, you mess up. G10 comes in sheets. If I mess it up or I mess a clip up, it can be easily replaced. But if you've got something nice, like for instance the ivory, I felt that was a pleasure to work with, because it can't be.
Well, you have to be respectful of that as well.
Yeah, and it's expensive, and it can't be replaced.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I would never have got another bit. And it was quite nice that the ivory that I got was. The majority of it was heading to a gun firm, I believe. I'm not sure, it was either Purdy or Holland and Holland, and I had little bits that was left over.
Yeah. So
it was nice to say I've had that batch. I've got a catapult with that batch that was meant to go to a massive gun maker, and I'm sure they charge tens of thousands of pounds for what they was using it for. So yeah, it's nice. But I'd say ivory is probably the best one I've worked with.
The most challenging.
Yeah, and I found it's so dense and that, and not many people would get to work with something like that. So
no, not at all.
Yeah, and it is ivory that was legally sustained. I'll put that one out there, because I know some people look back and say.
It's pre-1947, but a lot of the gun, if it's going to a top gun maker, it's ethically sourced, and it has to be.
It was bought through a knife company online, so it wasn't a Chinese fella down the back alley.
Yeah.
Come out of shop.
So these days, a lot of people are moving into resins, resin finish, glow in the dark bits and pieces, and some are gimmicks.
Oh yeah, well you've just reminded me of something now. I was thinking of the G10. I forgot about all the resins I work with. I work with a lot of hybrid materials where you'll get burl wood mixed in with resin and stuff like that, which is really, really nice. And I originally got that from a fellow in San Francisco who makes fantastic stuff. We had a trade actually. I had a trade for a catapult for some materials. And then it's become more and more popular now. There's more people doing it. There's someone in Ireland, someone in England doing it, and it's really nice to use, because woods can't be replicated. Yeah. The grain in a burl wood can't be replicated. So now I've also found myself ordering material, custom ordering hybrid material with wood in a certain place and whatnot, what I know will best fit my designs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually having stuff custom made and stuff like that, which is really nice. Which is nice because it's completely unique then.
Yeah.
You've got something completely different. And I haven't touched the surface for what is out there material-wise. There's so much. I could work to 100 and not get through all the materials. It's just knowing what you want to do. And I like theme catapults. I like to put a little bit of a theme with stuff. So I order stuff for that theme.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. Like, I think you just touched on that point. I think it can just go to so many different levels, and there are so many different materials, and there are so many different finishes that people are creating such beautiful artwork that is collectible but also functional at the same time.
People seem to like the names, they remember them. Like I done one recently, the Biohazard Raptor, and it was all biohazardous colours in it, and people remember it. And then more recently, going back on that mythological fantasy side, I done one called Merlin's Hat, which was kind of like on a programme I watched. There was Merlin's hat, had certain colours in it, and I kind of replicated Merlin's hat in that one. Yeah, it's I enjoy that though. That for me is the one bit that really keeps, because sometimes it gets to you a little bit, keep building the same stuff over and over again. When you've got something like that to build, it kind of gets me going. I see themes everywhere I look. I see a theme for a.
Do you have anyone requesting certain themes? Going, this is what I'm really into, or this is for a specific reason.
I had a fellow request a set of Deadpool catapults.
Oh really?
So I done obviously black and red, but on the one side I kind of split the materials up in such a way that it was like Deadpool's mask and stuff like that. Yeah, and I've got. Well, I had a conversation a couple of years ago. If we're going to go down the Marvel or comic book side, my mind will just spin in different ways I can build stuff. It was last night I was thinking about doing one for the Green Lantern, and I could go forever with that side of it. Like,
so
I can't
this is
build.
Kind of taking the McDonald's Happy Meal to a different way.
I generally can't build everything that's in my head.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's so many things flying around that I want to do, and that's why I've stopped. I get a lot of people. Originally, obviously, I've kind of got a reputation now, which I've built up over the course of time. But I was happy to do at one point ideas for other people. Now when people give me an idea, unless it's something I really, really like, I won't take the commission. I won't do it, because I know I've got so many ideas in my own head that I know people will love.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't need approval from anyone. I know they're going to love them. So
but also sometimes with commissioning is, whilst your vision's here, their vision's there, they might not be expecting that, and there's that kind of element to it where you might be proud of it, but it wasn't exactly what they wanted. Whilst if you're just doing something and people are going, I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's taken that element away.
I often say when people come to me for commissions, I like to have free reign over a build. I like people to say, well, you know best, you do it, and I love that, because I know, how can I say it? People don't know what they want until they see it. Yeah. And I kind of feel, I know it might be a bit presumptuous to say, but I know what they want.
So that's your
I know what they're going to like.
I
know what they're going to like. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And I don't really build for anyone's real approval. As long as I'm happy, what I've done is nice. It doesn't really matter to me if someone else likes it or not, to be honest with you. If they don't want it, they don't have to buy it.
Because we've talked to people about like kind of the rise of the Catapult and how it's been moving, and predominantly we've been talking about tournaments, styles, etc. But it's really good talking to you today, because actually that side of it is huge as well. Like the building, the creativity, the art side of it. And if we got to a place where, say, China is now anyway, where it's televised, people are talking about it, catapulters are being stopped in the street. You know, that's almost happening a bit here now. Yeah. But that side of it could really take off, couldn't it? Like the collectability and the art side.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I honestly believe Catapults wouldn't be where it is today without custom builds, because it's custom builds that draw people in. They see something fancy and they go, oh my god, I didn't realise there was a Catapult that looks like that. Because that's what drawn me in. I've seen different designs and I thought, wow, I didn't know Catapults could be like that.
Well, I suppose a lot of people either grew up with an actual,
it plays its part.
They watched or they read the Beano or something when they were kids, and they saw that. So it was just two forks, no particular style, bands on the end, using it for either mischief or for food, or for just playing with it, kind of messing around within the family unit.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But now, when you see something, I've talked to people about Catapults and I've shown them pictures of them, and also what people can do trick shots. And they are blown away by it.
It draws people in. Yeah. It all plays a part. Obviously, I'm involved with putting tournaments on. It's a major part of it, and that's what we want. It attracts people. But sometimes it isn't just the events that are attracting people. It's seeing custom slingshots that are attracted to it. They like what they see, and it's different. They're unique. They're intrigued. How do you hold that one? Why does it look like that? Yeah. It drags people in.
Well, it's exciting.
So does the trick shots. The trick shots drag people in. They look at it and they think, no, well, I never realised you could be so accurate. Because people just think chucking a can on the ground and hitting a can. Like people are hitting tiny targets, smaller than the ammo they're shooting.
When you see someone going, here's my 5 pence, but I'm just going to lie it down and then walk 4 miles away.
And I've seen that shot. It's quite a good shot.
Yeah, I'm just going to and then I'm going to shoot it with this. And I love the fact with the Catapult, they do come up to the camera and go, this is what I'm shooting. They'll say what it is, and then they'll do this. It's actually quite a thrilling and exciting and unbelievable thing to watch. Yeah,
no, definitely. It's a lot of different things playing its part that's attracting people to eventually, hopefully, come to tournaments, which again is going to get bigger and bigger in this country, hopefully. Catapults is growing at a massive rate. Yeah. The groups are getting bigger. There's more people shooting to a higher standard. Yeah. I mean, on their day, there could be 30 people that could win an event now, you know what I mean? Yeah. So no one's dominating.
But the best thing about it, I've found, and we've talked to people, is the fact that it's so accessible on the very lowest rate. You could live in the middle of nowhere, have no money, get yourself a fork, learn how to do it or do it yourself, and still get to a good standard. But then as you do that, perhaps if you get more money or more time or more popularity, you can start to almost upgrade and buy the things you want, and then you can help other people who come through. So it's good like that.
Some people say it doesn't matter if you ever got a custom catapult or anything like that. I always think it can be 70-30. 70% is the shooter because there's so many variables involved, but 30%, maybe a bit more than 30%, is the catapult. if you get something that fits your dimensions and match it to your anchor point and whatnot, you will be a better shot, and I refuse to believe anything other than that. But I'd advise anyone that gets into catapults, whatever their money they spend, what they do, to cut a natural down and make a catapult yourself, because it's so satisfying just to get a piece of wood and then actually hit targets with it, even if you're not in tiny things. Just to hit something, it's just that it's the most rawest form of catapult shooting to be able to do that.
It bonds you perhaps to the sport itself.
Everyone who shoots catapults at some point should be cutting one down and making it and shooting it and hitting stuff and doing a video with it. It's just massively satisfying.
I've seen a few people that have never started with a natural catapult, and they've gone to their customs or they've bought just offline, but then they have gone back to that.
Yeah, they go back to it
because they're like, hang on, I actually want to get to the roots of this and I want to understand how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, at the ESF shoot, the summer shoot that we've got coming on, we've got a classic event, and that's just naturals only, bark on. And that could be anyone's, because you can see a phenomenal shot used to shooting these things, but when it comes down to shooting a natural, he might not be as good. And when you see someone, I've seen some lads shoot with naturals to an absolutely fantastic standard, and it's jaw dropping to think that someone has cut something down, sanded it, and put some elastic on it, and they can hit pennies with it at silly distances and go out and hunt with it, and you know what I mean.
So
it's
you've got the bark on event coming at the Solihull hunting course. Does that mean after that event, everyone's going to be sitting there probably at night whittling down, aren't they?
This is the problem with me. I mean, if I find something really good, if I find a really good natural fork, my natural instinct would be to take that bark off and sand it and make it perfect. So
and you're like, oh.
It's going to kill me to do it, but I'm going to cut one down and I'll use it as soon as it's over.
Straight away that bark's off.
yeah, without a doubt. No, that has to be done.
Well, you're going to have to write the date on it then for some event, 2019 on it.
Exactly.
So
the only way I won't alter it is if I win with it. If I win with it, it won't get altered.
You need to put that in resin itself and mount it on the wall.
Without a doubt. Yeah, no, something like that's got to be done.
Yeah. So you've obviously been interviewed quite a lot by people, by various different channels.
Celebrity status.
But imagine you get the same old questions probably all the time. And what we really like to do with the profiles is just to get a bit more of, the person behind it. Because there's a lot of this is internet based, as in the communication that people have, and there's obviously limitations with words because no one knows if you're joking, and no one knows what information etc is going out there. But actually getting to know the person. Is there anything about Asa Wilson you think we should know, or why you've got into things?
I'll go a little bit deeper than I've done on other things, and I'll tell you what catapults actually means to me, and what it does for me. I actually lost someone a while back that I love deeply, and it was not long after I was given the stuff from Sam Stanley. So I kind of made catapults. She wasn't very well, so I made them as a release. It was a release for me, and she enjoyed it. Everything I'd done she enjoyed, and she enjoyed to see that creative side of what I do. I can feel myself getting a bit red as we're talking about it, but she enjoyed watching them, and I always said back in the day, like, I didn't care what anyone thought of them, as long as she liked them, she's the only approval that I needed. And when she passed away, it's just been a massive release. It's something to go to, something to express myself in. And I still say to this day, everyone I build, you don't actually own them. You pay the right to hold on to them. She owns every one. And I still she looks over every one I do, and she gives me approval. And if I know she's happy with it, then I'm happy with the build. So it's catapults for me. It's been more than just a way of earning money or building. It's actually been a crutch, in a way, and not just the builds that I do, the community in itself. Speaking to people, you get very close to people. I've made some extremely good friends through catapults, and just that little bit of I like a little bit of exposure. You know what I mean? You can go a little bit big-headed with it and have people. It's a lovely thing to have. I mean, if I never done catapults, what other thing would I do where people look at something I've built and go, "That's fantastic. I really, really like that." It makes you feel good, and that's something that means a whole hell of a lot to me. And that's why catapults I'll never ever drop. Whatever I do, if I haven't got the time for it, I'll still find the time. If I build them for free, I'll still build. Do you know what I mean? I know some people come into catapults because they might see it as a way of earning money and whatnot. I never started it that way. It was nothing about the money for me. It just kind of came. And people say now I'm quite expensive. Let's be honest, I'm very high end. But my catapults weren't always expensive. I look back at some of the early stuff I've done. I thought, what was I doing it for that money for? Do you know what I mean? I remember the days when I built natural catapults for £25 and nobody would buy it, and I couldn't understand it. I'd rather give it away. So it's only something that I've built up and up and up. But it does. I'll always do it. It's very, very close to my heart. Putting the events on, the shoots, even though there can be stress and a headache, and the amount of times I've said to the ESF lads, that's the last one, I'm leaving after that, I'm leaving the committee, I can't be doing with it, and they all say, look Asa, it's good for you, because a few different people, not a lot, but a few people, well, everyone I know now, right, but they knew how good it was for me. And they said it's good to be a part of it, and sometimes when I don't want to do stuff, you need to force yourself to do stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise you won't, what are you going to do? So yeah, it's an obligation that I find is needed with me. I need the pressure of putting this shoot on. There's a lot of people relying on me to get this field from the farmer and put this shoot on and whatnot, and I need it.
I'll be honest, you're not the first person who's said that kind of thing about catapults. We've had people that have talked to us, whether it was actual physical injuries, emotional, but they've said that it's something that really got them going, and I find that fascinating. And I think the backup of the community side of it is probably a huge part of it, not just the process of making and someone's approval or doing it for someone or doing it to get through something, but then that other backup of people wanting to be there and wanting to know about what you're doing, but also supporting and giving advice. When you said that other guy was looking for approval for the material, but you know how to do it. But the fact is, he gave his approval. And that's important, because there's a lot of things in the world where people will go, keep asking for my approval, but I'm not going to give it. I don't want to share.
I can be like that myself a little bit. I mean, people have asked for certain. I'll only give out what I want to give out, and I'm entitled to do that as a person. You know what I mean? But if it's someone I know and like, I'll give them help and advice. I've got no qualms about doing that at all. I know a lot of people have actually said it. People have said it to me about other people, and they said they feel that you're a bit unapproachable. Like, I can be a bit unapproachable, but that's not just down to catapults. That's just me in general. I'm a man that likes my own space. I can go and do my own thing and whatnot, and I like people as and when I want them, and that might be a bit selfish, but I'm not unapproachable. The amount of people that's actually spoke to me on a personal level and said, well, I was a bit worried to speak to you and whatnot. Now I spoke to you, you're actually as good as gold. Like, well, I am. Do you know what I mean? It's just sometimes when you're at shoots and whatnot, it's very stressful, and people need to understand you're trying to get a job done, which is important. But any other time, like we're doing now, having a drink and whatnot, I'll chat all day about Catapult and help anyone that needs help.
We've only met once before, and that was at the EFSF shoot, and I wasn't organising. We were shattered. At the end of the day, we were exhausted, interviewing, taking part.
You've done the interview at the end. It was unexpected, because I didn't know you was there filming. I didn't know you was going to do an interview. Like, I was just got dragged over. We're going to do an interview. I was like, microphone out. Okay. I felt like I was at a press conference after a football match with a microphone all stood on the table.
By the way, that was an excellent interview. But then I was thinking to myself, this man's he's been doing all this, he's been setting it up, there's been hiccups, there's been all these people, there's all the scoring, which is obviously probably the most paramount thing to it. And then at the end of it, everyone was going, what number did I come? And you're like, I'm just getting the prizes out. Don't ask me if I came 127th. It's just not going to work.
No, definitely not. But with catapults, all sides of it, all aspects, every single part, I'm massively passionate about it. So I often say to lads, this is the thing, I'm living, breathing, sleeping, eating it, the lot. Some people ain't, and it is an escape for them after their day's work. On an evening, I don't normally always want to speak about catapults. I want to chat about, and I say to some people to chat to me about anything else. I'm not in the mood for slingshots, because I know if I do, I can speak forever about them. And if I start speaking about them, it will just completely take control of my comment. Like people in the pubs, this area that we live in is massive for shooting, and I speak to a lot of shooters in the pub, and they're fascinated by it. But I know if I start talking in the pub about it, I just won't shut up. There's so much where we can go further with it.
Are you making a point there, because of actually going, right, I need to time manage my job essentially and stuff like this, rather than just constantly day in day out everything just be 100% catapult? You know there's a cut-off period that you've got to give yourself healing time. What
I find a little bit worrying is on the new iPhone that I've got, well, I say new iPhone, on the new update on it, they show your screen time on there, your weekly screen time, and I think it was this morning my screen time, I might be on here, well, weekly report available. Your screen time was down 22% last week for an average of 6 hours 17 minutes a day. So that's all catapult related on groups.
It's worrying actually, isn't it?
That's a worrying amount of time that I spend on the phone in regards to catapults. Yeah, and that's searching for materials late at night, looking for new stuff, chatting, answering messages back, and I've always got messages. I'm never clear of messages, because if I sat there and answered every message back, it's not just answering back, it's a reply I've got to contemplate, and then I'd be there all day. So I tend to just pick one person at a time, speak to them, and then I'll message someone else back. I'll try and manage it as best I can, but it does. And there's builders out there that's building cheaper catapults. Obviously, if they're building cheaper catapults, they're selling a whole hell of a lot more. How they manage to do it with the amount of messages they get, I'll never know. Like the likes of Gamekeeper John and Nick Hegarty, I generally don't know how they manage to cope.
Well, in the future, there's the only way it can go is up. Let's be really honest.
Without a doubt.
There's no way it's just going to suddenly go, right, we've all stopped now, we're not going to do this. It's going to go just up and up and up on so many different levels, whether that's the tournament side, the hunting course side, people doing trick shots at home, people building. If you look in China, as I said, it's on TV.
Yeah.
There's a very likely chance
I shot in Spain last year, and that was on television. We went in the bar, and they actually had it on a live feed on telly. They had a YouTube channel there that went just to do it live, and it was phenomenal what they did. I think it was very, very expensive actually to get this YouTube people there, and they split the screens up with the shooters and whatnot, and that's what I'd love to do in the UK at some point. But obviously, things will have to go up. The price of entry will have to go up if we're gonna have to raise money from somewhere. I know people don't like that, but if you want the best quality and the best feeling shoot you're gonna get, that last one was the most expensive one we put up. I think it was in excess of £6,000 or something to put it on with a venue and whatnot. And
people don't realise actually there is a huge cost, and also the fact is there's a lot of people involved, all the volunteers for example, who are given their time for free, and they have other things they could be doing, but they're choosing to do that.
In an ideal world, we'd employ people just for the day to work on the shoots, like they had at the World Cup in Italy. They had people there that never shot. Their jobs were just to steward all day.
Was that a game changer when you went there?
Yeah, it was a game. I know people bang on about it and say, people that never went, they say, they don't shut up about what Italy was like, but it was. I'm getting haunted by something.
Spiders.
It was a massive game changer how they done it and how they are. And we didn't try and replicate it, but we tried to go as close as we could to it. But like Marco, who put it on, said to me, he said we had 2 years in the making to do that, and we rehearsed it. We had actual rehearsals for the shoot, for the stewards and whatnot. So to do something like that, well, that shoot, I think it cost, I think it was €40,000 to put that shoot on. So that's something that's not going to be replicated here for a long time.
No, because when we talked to Keith Darton, who also went, he just went, game changer.
It was a massive
from the car park, we knew we wanted to do better, and then we saw that and went, wow.
Well, it didn't just change it in that way, it changed it in a way where we've now become, it's more of an international sport, because I met a lot of people that I've met online before from various countries, but you're shooting with them, you're drinking with them afterwards, and they're becoming friends, and that urged me to go to the Spanish Nationals last year and re-meet some of the people I'd already met and meet a load of new people, and it's just amazing. And how they do it, I'm not quite, it's a different culture I suppose, but at their dinner time, halfway through a shoot, they'll all sit on tables together and all eat together and stuff like that, which I love that side of it, to be honest. But like at the shoot that we've just had, Keith probably told you, I think it was 11 different nationalities we had, over 40 or 30 or 40 shooters.
You've met, they all came over as well. So
it's bringing us, the Spanish Nationals in August. Hopefully I'll be going. I think you're going to it, aren't you?
One of us is going.
One of us is going.
My daughter's birthday is right in the middle of it.
Yeah, well there you go. So it's people are going abroad. You're seeing people.
Yeah, we can't wait. We want to go to China. Like every shoot that's coming up, people are saying, "Are you coming?"
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
And we really want to go, but obviously it's not got to the point maybe like China where there's a sponsored catapult shooter, or a bit like it's because there's a very high chance this could become almost a football status. It could happen. You could go into pubs and they have the different sports on, and it could be slingshot shooting in one of them. It could very well get to that level.
Could. It's got that potential. It has got that potential to get busier and busier, and then obviously arranging events, everything will have to get a little bit more professional, and who knows, we'd like to say the ESF in England maybe is a governing body, because we're the only ones that's putting events on in England, but maybe one day we'll need a governing body put in place to do it, and everyone. That's why we set up the ESF, so there'd be a Welsh one, a Scottish one, set up an Irish one, so we could all try and shoot the same stuff. Fortunately, not everyone agrees with different things, which is always going to make it difficult, but hopefully as we're moving forward, we will have that governing body in place. Everyone will shoot a similar format, maybe more rounds, same as snooker. They're playing the same game, hitting the same size balls, but there's a different amount of frames for different events. That's all right. We could change the amount of shots you have and stuff, but to have it all the same targets and you know what I mean, uniform, standardisation, uniform all the way through, and that's what will get recognised by Olympics eventually. It'll have to be that way. More clubs introduced and stuff, and maybe a ranking system would be massive.
But a proper one, because at the moment it's sending a video of yourself showing you've done something.
But you could only really have a ranking system based on tournaments. We don't really have enough tournaments
and clubs.
What we need is not so much major tournaments. That's what I call what we're putting on, major tournaments. You want clubs that's putting on like club tournaments, club-based tournaments where people can go participate in them, and then you get a ranking depending on where you come.
System of that kind of way, and then they can go to
I've
the
been looking at a lot of
shoots.
different sports. Like I find it quite similar to darts, but darts ranking is based on prize money. But there'd have to be something we'd be able to do. It's going to take a lot of thinking, and it might be beyond my capabilities, how I work. You'd need probably someone that's been involved with sporting and stuff like that to come in and advise us. Maybe that's what we need, you know what I mean? But it's exciting. It can go that way.
You're excited for the future?
Yeah, I'm massively excited for it, to really go on. Because I class myself as more of a tournament shooter. I don't shoot as much as I should, but I love it. I mean, I've not really done any other sports like that, so for me to stand with a crowd watching me, and like in Italy I scored when you scored a maximum, the crowd like all clapped and roared. It's a great feeling.
And when you're England, you had something with England on it.
Yeah, it's sad to say, but now it's like I'm a sportsman or something, you know what I mean? A sports personality, and you're recognised and you shoot, and people want to watch you shoot, and other people more so than me. Do you know what I mean? It's it's nice. It's nice to have that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is why we want to sit and talk to people. It's getting the personality and the person behind that thing. Almost like, you know, when you used to do the rugby when it was amateur. Yeah. And then you'd go and you'd follow the guy who was the farmer or the person who was the solicitor. And you'd go and actually meet the people. Yeah, right. And I think that's important to get all that information first before it all starts getting to a really professional, almost unreachable level. It could do, you don't know. Yeah.
Now, what would be nice as well, like... in Spain, when I went there, they had a meeting before the shoot the day before, and it was all like I don't know how they quite do it, but there's all their committee members. And Spain, actually, shooting catapults in Spain is actually illegal, so the police could come in and close an event down at any time they wanted. And they're massively pushing. A couple of friends of mine out there they're sending letters off to the government to have it known as a sport. And that shocked me, that did. So beforehand they had a meeting, and they was all there from various parts of Spain, and I couldn't understand a word of it, like, but they're going on, some of them's arguing and whatnot. And I think what it is, it brings the committee members together. It's all right doing stuff on Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, but there's nothing better than getting people down at a table with a pen and paper and saying, right, this is the ideas. I find you do a lot more, you get a lot more done. And it'd be nice, like before a shoot, to do that, and maybe have it as an open thing where the spectators or the shooters can be there and say, right, put my hand up, I think this should be done, or that should be done, and do it like that. It's more that open side of it. You don't know
who's in the crowd, and you don't know people's backgrounds. You just see someone on there going, I like this catapult, I've bought this, give me some advice. You don't actually know where their background is. They could be incredibly useful, or might have some without
a doubt they could have something to bring
forward.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, that would be great in the UK for someone to be filming that and seeing what other people's having to say. People saying, well, I don't like this format, that should be changed. And obviously you can't change something on the basis of one person, but it's good to hear different feedback and ideas and see what people think.
Well, it's getting the ball rolling, really, and the more moss you gather onto it, the
definitely
bigger that ball goes, and then things, you know, you never know who's going to stick onto that.
I don't think we're going to be quite ready for that just yet, but it's something that I would like to see. It's like this year, even though I've been involved with like the British Catapult Association and the UK Catapult Association, and that was before the ESF, when we came into the ESF and we started that, because we had bigger ideas, it almost felt like we were virgins to doing it. We'd never done it before. And this shoot, even though it was a massive improvement on other shoots, there was a lot of improvement that can still be made. So this year is still our first year. We've still not settled on, we've tried new target systems this year. I think we'll change them again next year, and we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to keep pushing until we find what we feel.
Evolving, aren't you?
Yeah, we want to do what we feel is going to be the best for everyone, not just from a shooting perspective, but a viewer's perspective. And the single spinner that we previously done, it was good. We got more alleys in, but it wasn't very good for spectating. We tried it because the Chinese done it.
The Chinese one also with is it 5 that they have? You see the knockdown.
The Chinese are a different culture to us. I'm not sure whether they're so bothered. They're very uniform out there, and I'm not sure whether they're all that bothered on the spectating side. They're just getting the numbers through and rolling them out. I like to spectate. I like to see stuff. So I think we'll change it again next year. I think next year will be a lot better year than this year, because we've learned so much from this shoot. It'll be bigger, the 2-day events like Keith's probably told you, and that it'll just be it'll be a bit more of a spectacle. We don't need loads of shoots a year. I think if we put too many shoots on, we can discourage other people from putting shoots on. What we need is maybe 2, maybe 3. I mean, different in the committee. Different lads are saying different things. Some maybe want 3. I would be happy with 2 good shoots.
Yeah.
A good indoor and a good summer one, and then push the clubs that's popping up here, there, and everywhere
to
do
their own ones that feed into that.
Into club events and small events, which I'd be happy to go to. You know what I mean? And do it that way. Then we get more events. We could have 10 events a year. There's so much.
Fill up your calendar, but knowing that the big major events.
Yeah.
You want to be.
You've got your 2 major events, but you can go to little club events, and hope for little club events. You can still probably hit 40 or 50 shooters, 50, 60 shooters. It's enough.
Yeah. So, do you do trick shots and stuff as well?
I've done a lot of trick shots in the past, but I just don't find the time at the minute to set the camera up and do it, and it doesn't always happen on that first shot. Do you know what I mean? I get quite bored of doing it.
Yeah.
So I'll maybe have 10 or 15 minutes at a go. If I hit it in 10 or 15 minutes, then I'll do it. After that, I've done enough walking now. I've walked 2 miles from the catch box.
Randomly, do you have any little rituals or things that you do? So if you're going out to a tournament, when you're standing on there, it is a big thing. It is really, and you've got to get mentally in the place to do it. But I was looking at people, and some people were like moving their arm or twitching their catapult first, or some people are blessing themselves. I just wondered, have you got a thing?
Well, before I shoot, unless I've had practice shots immediately before I shoot, I'd obviously like to stretch the bands out a couple of times, because I like the bands just to have a bit more movement in them, let's say. What else? No, when I'm on the line shooting, I've got my own style where I'll twist the frame. I know naturally when I hold a catapult, the top fork comes back. People's told me about it, so just before I shoot, I always make that little bit. I don't know if it's perfect, but I know I'm going to do a little bit of a change and stuff like that. And also, I found out in Italy, I don't like to be talking to loads of people before I shoot. Just before I go to shoot, I like a little bit of peace and try and.
You said you're quite a private person.
Yeah.
Just getting into the zone.
That's why I didn't like at Cheltenham, where I'd done the scoring all day and then I was called up to shoot. I had to literally get off the table and stand on the line and shoot. I like to just sit back, compose myself, and just remember certain things, because I don't shoot as much as I should. My muscle memory isn't working as good as some people's is, so I need to remember do that little bit.
Then, so your checklist is obviously tilt that forward a bit, because you've got to remember to do that. I like to get my feet
standing in the right place, because obviously you can become taller and shorter by the distance.
It makes a huge difference.
You know what I mean?
It really does.
I like to do stuff like that and take my time. I don't like to rush anything. I'm not a massively fast shot. Make sure the pouch is right and everything like that. I mean, if I'm talking just before I shoot, I forget about all that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I like to just remind myself, like you say, a little bit of a checklist in my head and get my ammo where I need it and stuff like that.
Because I found that because obviously I don't practice now, and that was the first ever competition I've ever entered, and I'm very new to it. But I remember the first shot, and then I felt my leg was just off, and then I've just brought it in a few centimetres. Yeah. But then I was wasting almost that time on those shots on it. But I thought actually probably what I need to do is go right then, check. Does it feel right here?
Exactly.
Here's the pose. Here's my mistake. Check that straight, and then do it that way.
I might start using a bit of chalk as well, because I've downsized ammo to 7mm, which means I've got a smaller pouch. It's very fiddly, and I've had what I call premature release, where you'll go to pull it back, it slips through your finger. So a little bit of chalk with a 7mm, I think I might bring that into it, and then after that, you don't know, there might be a good few years.
What do you use when you're shooting at the tournaments? Do you use which Raptor do you use
I'm
out of
using,
the family?
Well, mine's a little bit different than anyone else's. I use a juvenile one because I've got quite small hands. But I also have different dimensions outers, 80mm outer, which is quite small. I'm only using 2 optics at the minute. Also, it's shaped a little bit different in here, and the fork tips they go down towards the corners, which is something new. I don't know whether that really makes much of a difference, but I just kind of feel like I've made a little bit more effort into my own to make it a bit different than anyone else's. So there's a few other little bits and bobs that is different as well. The angle, people think they're all the same. The angles of the catapults come from different sides. Yeah. So the angle on this side's frame here is different than a bit bigger one that maybe come from here and go across. So there's a lot of different scientific things that I've found that works for me.
How did you work out what's the right fork width for you personally? I'm really curious about
just
this.
Trial and error. I mean, I anchor up to my ear. A lot of people come to their mouth. I go to my ear, which means I get a little bit longer draw length. Yeah. But the higher you anchor, the narrower frame you need. Yeah. Generic normally is, a lot of people shoot 100, but I think about 90 to 100 is generic for most people. If you draw into your lip, if I have a 90mm frame and I'm drawing to my ear, my shots just go massively low. So I just kept kind of just pushing it in a bit further. But even at 80mm, I'm really strange, because I believe there's more science to it than a lot of people realise. 80mm, I don't have the bands on the corners. The bands are actually narrower. So my actual width I'm shooting is a lot narrower than 80. I'm probably shooting 70mm. Yeah. But I still use the corner to reference off of. Do you know what I mean? So I use an 80mm reference point, but the bands have to be at 70.
See, I think that actually makes more sense scientifically than.
That's why I make the tips bigger so I can adjust.
Yeah.
Because in the cold I bring them right in. If it's a bit warmer, I can release them out a bit. I can change the height for my shot, and I think it's not just doing each one equal. I mean, what's to say if you do the bottom one out a little bit further and do them at unequal bits, it might change. Again, you can constantly keep changing and tweaking.
I mean, you're getting more experience with the tweaking because you're making almost so many catapults.
Yeah, it's only been the last year I've messed around a lot more and put a lot more thought into it than I needed to. But that's what works for these bands. If I use a different band, maybe I might need to be on the edge. The bands can change. Yeah. I'm quite finicky like that, where depending on the bands and the tapers and whatnot, I can change. So I like to have that.
What band are you using at the moment then? What thickness tractors we're in the country?
I'm using a 0.45 Samiki band, all the pink stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm using a taper of 17.5 to 10.5.
Oh wow, that's quite.
Which is a bit different.
Why do people think the tapers work? What's the theory behind taper
just more
versus
speed.
flat bands?
It's more speed. Because the way the band pulls will take, that's literally all it is. It's just
there's a storage of energy within one part and the release.
Yeah.
So you're almost wasting a bit of energy at the end, but it's propelling it through.
They just perform faster, but they don't last as long.
Yeah.
These I might be getting 120 shots.
And how quick can you change those? Because in your competition you had 3 minutes, didn't you, to change a set of bands? Can you change? What's your speed?
I could change these bands in probably a minute if I really wanted to get them on. But if I'm messing around doing it back home, it might take me 2 minutes, 3 minutes, a bit longer. I always say with my clips, it's not so much about speed, it's about ease.
Yeah.
I hate wrapping and tucking. Some people don't mind, but where I've not done it for ages, and I'd actually done a frame yesterday, it just annoys me to sit there and do it. So
there's more element for error as well.
Yeah, some people could probably put wrap and tuck on a frame just as quick as I can do clips, but it's not about speed, it's just ease.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of times I've shot a wrap and tuck frame and the band's breaking, it'll stay in the cover for a week before I shoot it again. Now I can just place them out, and like you say, it's precise. As long as I've cut them bands right, I know they dip in there about 4mm. Yeah. They'll go in there both the same. That's it. I don't have to line anything up. I don't have to mess around.
And one twitch when you're wrapping and one goes off a bit.
Subconsciously, for me, that makes a big difference. That I know it's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
So you're quite precise then, like so. You've almost got that kind of engineering and art brain mixed together.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel the Raptor's probably one of the ugliest frames I do. It's built a little bit more for comfort than anything else. I wouldn't say it's the most prettiest frame out there, especially with the clips. It has become quite scientific. Do you know what I mean? It's more without fibre optics and stuff like that. They are more meant to.
I think it's the most distinctive frame though.
These are meant to be accurate.
Yeah.
Whereas other frames I've built, they're not always meant to be accurate. You know what I mean? Obviously accuracy is a big part, but I also spend a lot of time with making them look nice, and that's.
So that's more on the science side that's fulfilling that part of your brain going, exactly, at least I know this is going to work.
It's a new side to my building. It's a different side. I'm going to also do, I know there's a bit of a trend now with hammer grip frames, and I'm going to go into that as well. I like challenges. I like to be a builder that's rounded in every way. I can do anything and everything.
Yeah.